What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk about a fresh start and what that actually means, especially post earnings. I'm going to go over some highlights and some positives to take away from the earnings as well, and what that actually all means for us as investors. In addition to, I will go over some updated data points, especially again post earnings, to see what is actually happening and the consensus of what investors are thinking. And at the end, I'll tie it all together with some technical analysis. But before I get into any of that, you guys know the deal. Smash a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, I do daily videos on trending stocks, crypto, I do it all, so make sure you do subscribe. Also, don't forget to take a look at my Discord, link in the description below. It's a free chat, a lot of good people, and with that said, let's get right to it. So in case you did tune into the live stream yesterday where we went over the earnings, it wasn't necessarily the best. I'm just going to say it right out front, but there is still some positives to take away from that, and I'm going to go through all of that. But first off, I just want to start off by going over the live ticker. So you can see to my left, currently down roughly about 15%, 39.7 million shares being traded, whereas the average is 54. So it's going to be a very heavy day for volume. So despite everything, 2 million shares have been purchased by institutions and hedge funds today alone, and that's on the block volume column. So at the end of the day, it's not too bad. There's some positives, like I said, some negatives out of everything. But one thing I want you to take away from this is a fresh start. And basic economics and basic stock market is technically 90% of the time stocks are trading is all based on speculation. So the only true points in time when something is very realistic based on the actual intrinsic value and the price is earnings. So keep in mind, we opened at $24.48 today. So that in reality should be our benchmark. That is factoring in everything I'm going to talk about as far as earnings. That's factoring everything in. And again, I'm just saying that because I know there might be a lot of new investors out there. So there is some positives to take away from that. So $24.48 is what we opened at. That's factoring in everything I'm just going to talk about. So getting right to it, there is some positives to take away from that. So customer reservations is at 25,000. That's fairly close to my prediction where I said 24,000. So that is good. And in reality, majority of those are actually from the States. So that is actually a very good catalyst, especially considering I do believe and attribute it to the huge number of studios popping up. And I personally do feel that during the earnings call, they were very conservative. They were very neutral. They weren't really ambitious as far as answering any questions. So I think that's why during the question and answer period, a lot of analysts who did ask questions such as Bank of America, so forth, they didn't necessarily get the answers they were looking for. But at the end of the day, I was hoping that Peter was going to say that there was a lot of demand in the States, largely because of the studios, especially considering that actually shows that they're doing something right. But regardless, you can piece together how you see things at the end of the day. I do attribute all this huge demand in the States because of this. And we all know right now EVs in the States has been lagging, especially in 2021, 2020, and so forth. So that is one very good takeaway from all of this. So I really do like that aspect. And going down to this, we all knew, I think deep down tentatively, that 2021 earnings were not necessarily going to be the best. Especially there was a lot of kind of red flags, more so the recall. Again, the recall I'm not really going to necessarily talk about, and I don't feel it's a big deal, but it did say 203 vehicles. So that kind of was a little bit lower on the end, and that made a lot of investors a little bit more worried, the fact that they're not saying 700 and things like that. But 125 vehicles were delivered up until December 31st, 2020, 400 vehicles as of February 28th, so the time of the call, 300 deliveries were done to date. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So right now they do definitely need to ramp it up. And I think personally the biggest thing that they got killed on is this. They reduced their production outlook for 2022 from 20,000 to roughly about 12 to 14,000. So that's a relatively big hit. And out of everything, I was surprised that Peter did say that the reduction in this is not because of semiconductors. It's actually because of just basic things such as glass, carpet. I was so surprised when he legitimately even said carpet. So there is that aspect, and he did actually cite saying that technically COVID is one of the main causes because of that they can't actually go to all these new facilities and actually inspect the product. So that's one thing to take away from that. Hopefully they can actually wrap it up. But at the end of the day, especially us watching Bear's Workshop, give or take, especially in 2022, they are at around 35 vehicles per day on average, give or take. So they're technically in line. So the 12 to 14,000 is relatively achievable right now, and especially considering in order for them to do the 20,000, they needed 55 per day. So they tentatively already were under behind the gun. And I really do like that for a couple different factors. One of which is tentatively right now we can achieve, given the circumstances and what we're actually doing right now, the 12 to 14,000. We can achieve that given the circumstances and if we just maintain it. But Peter did say that near the end of 2022, the tail end will be ramping up production significantly. So hopefully we'll be able to beat these targets. So keep in mind, us opening at $24.48, we are factoring in all of this information. We're factoring in 14,000. So hypothetically, at the end of the year, if we do ramp up production near the tail end of 2022, we can easily exceed that, which will cause the price to go up significantly. So I really do like that, and I really like cash. So 6.2 billion in cash, and Bank of America did bring this up as far as what they intend on doing, and possibly about the Saudi factory as well, whether that's going to be partially funded by them or not. Unfortunately, Peter didn't really answer that correctly in my opinion. He kind of just said, well, we have more than enough cash for us to survive up until 2023. Sorry, it wasn't Peter. But anyways, you get my point. Ultimately, Bank of America was ultimately looking for this. So this is the article that did come out saying that the factory is going to be producing in 2025, 2026, but they are bringing technically this up. But it does say right here, the PIF fund, which is already a shareholder in Lucid, will provide much of the money for the site at the economic city, the people said. So I think Bank of America was looking a little bit more of a background and a number from that aspect, and especially considering it is said right here that PIF is going to produce and provide much of the money. And like I've said in previous videos, and based on my research and everything, it does look like PIF hypothetically was willing to put up 50% or is willing to put up 50% for that facility. Arguably, it's around 3 billion right now, so PIF technically is going to be paying 1.5. That is the answer that Bank of America was ideally looking for. And again, I think the earnings necessarily wasn't really the best, because at the end of the day, Peter, as much as he's a very smart individual, it doesn't seem to be answering the questions per se as what a lot of analysts want, because even on the live stream that I was doing, there was a lot of comments not necessarily the best, that they were just answering things very neutral. So I don't really like that, but at the end of the day, I really do like the product, and especially Peter did even reiterate that this is a tech race, so that is very good. And like I said, there is some other positives to take from this, but those are kind of the main takeaways. And at the end of the day, when I'm saying that this is a fresh start, that is factoring in all this information. But with all of that fun stuff, I know I didn't necessarily bring up all the highlights. Let me know in the comments below what you really did like. But at the end of the day, some of these parts right here and points are technically the ones that are driving the price up and down significantly. There is a lot of other things to take away. But with that, I'm just going to go over some data points, because right now it is all over the place. So looking at short interest right now, so short interest is 1746, down roughly about 6%. Given all the circumstances and what news came out, I am very optimistic that shorts are not doubling down. So right now on a day-by-day change, it's actually only up 0.58%. So that is actually one good thing to take away from us as investors. And technically it does show that 1.28 million shares being additionally shorted today. Utilization is still 100%, so that's a good takeaway from all of this. And as far as options activity, so again, options activity has been all over the place. Yesterday was fairly positive, but looking at today, currently $5.7 million worth of options being done today, with 52% positive. So it does appear that it's going back to being a little bit more optimistic for Lucid. And again, yesterday there was $22.74 million worth of options being done, with 50% positive. So I really do like that, and especially given all the circumstances of what last week was, only 31% was positive. So again, I like to compare and contrast exactly everything. So options do show that there is a lot of investors that are still optimistic about the future, especially at these prices. In addition to shorts not actually doubling down is a very big bullish sign to me, especially given the circumstances of what the news came out from their earnings. Again, there was some positives, some negatives from the earnings, and the fact that shorts aren't actually manipulating Lucid down as much as they are, that is a very good takeaway. And with all of that, just want to transition and do some technical analysis. So right now, the 5100, 200-day moving averages, Bollinger Bands, RSI, stochastic, and momentum. So right now, momentum, you can see number of buyers is down, which is arguably you kind of assume that, especially based on the earnings. Stochastic, despite again the downtrend that is happening, still technically a bullish sign. So right now there is a deviation black line above the red, so that's again very positive. RSI is currently at 39, so it's starting to take a little bit more of a dip. When it does get to around the 30 percentile, that is a very good buying opportunity. And looking on the actual chart, we are at the lower percentile of the Bollinger Band, which arguably we kind of would assume we are. Again, we are not outside of it. So that's one positive thing, especially given all the circumstances, and especially Peter did reiterate many times he likes quality. And there still is a lot of reasons to be very optimistic on Lucid despite the pullback. This is just in reality what the fair market value is for Lucid. So that's one thing that a lot of people need to realize, that technically this isn't going to go to $50 tomorrow or the next day. There is a lot of hype, and especially all it takes is a little bit of a momentum, especially considering yesterday, right before their earnings, it was up significantly. I'm sure all of us know that, and that was largely because of this. So technically, Lucid did sign a 25-year contract for the Saudi factory. So that is one good takeaway, and a lot of Lucid investors really like as far as what they're actually doing for the growth aspect, at least. So again, I know technically it hurts right now, but all it'll take is one moment, one good piece of news, and this will go up pretty significantly. But given all the circumstances and how much we're actually down, the technical analysis doesn't look that bad. There's some red flags kind of pointing out, but at the end of the day, we can still and have the momentum to go up. And even looking technically at the chart right here on the basic intraday chart, you can see we did bounce back pretty significantly. So again, showing that we do have momentum. And again, and I know I say that quite a lot and again because there's so many different things, and I'm very excited about Lucid at the end of the day, but looking right here, look at what happened in the early morning in the pre-market. We went up pretty significantly. We went up over $27. So clearly there was enough momentum for someone to actually willingly buy it at that price. And I really do like that. And I do anticipate that there's going to be a lot more analysts that do provide ratings on Lucid. And more specifically, it does look like Bank of America did reiterate the $60 price target, but clearly was somewhat surprised about the magnitude of the lowering outlook. And again, going back to that, that is between the 12 to 14,000. With all that, let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. If you haven't already, smash the thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Greatly appreciate that. If you do like my channel and support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With all that said, appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.